You're not on mute, Larry.
Okay.
You may want to mute yourself.
Okay. We are ready to begin.
Okay, well, good morning and welcome to the July 15th meeting of the New York City Campaign Finance Board. The first item of business on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 17th. I move their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, the motion carries. The next item of business is my report. So today, the board will vote to issue public funds payments to candidates participating in the general election in November. If you're tuning into this meeting, you should know that New York City's campaign finance program has already set records in the 2021 elections. More candidates qualified to receive matching funds than in any previous city election. Candidates in races for all 5 municipal offices received more than $109 million. This unprecedented investment in our local elections helped fuel competitive primary races up and down the ballot, including 47 of the 51 city council districts. In the mayor's race, the board paid $39.2 million to candidates running in primaries for both major parties. Much has been made of the role of independent expenditures played in this election. However, the support provided to candidates through the campaign finance program surpassed the amount spent by the outside groups, helping all the candidates who qualified get their story and vision for the city out to voters. This concludes my report for today. Now I will turn it over to Executive Director Amy Loprest.
Hello. So in addition to the payment today is the filing deadline. We are expecting over 589 candidates to file disclosures across 7 election cycles. That includes, candidates in the primary and general election for 2021 and all the special elections in the past year. We also are anticipating disclosures filings by 31 independent spenders. So the staff is, the general election is in full swing, and we are getting ready to, just work through both the payments and the disclosure for the general election. I just would like to point out that, after the primary election, we see that there was an uptick in turnout, while not the great turnout, but I think that the enormous amount of work informing candidates about voters about the election and about ranked choice voting really paid off in the demonstrated increase in voting. It's the highest turnout in a municipal election in many, many years. So I think that is something to be happy about, and hoping to build on that for future elections.
Thank you very much, Amy. So on our agenda this morning are 4709 petitions, that is petitions challenging non-payment of public funds in this last election cycle, and 2 matters left over from the 2017 elections involving penalties and or public funds repayments. 5 of those 6 candidates are appearing today, and so I will take them in the order that they are listed on the agenda. The first candidate scheduled to appear is Thomas Leon. Mr. Leon, are you present?
Actually, I'm sorry, Chair, we had by agreement, the Ulrich campaign had asked, because of another engagement later this afternoon, if they could appear first. Is that correct, General Counsel? Yeah. So we'll take Mr. Ulrich's campaign. I see Mr. Ulrich. I don't know if Councilmember Ulrich, I see him on screen. I don't know if his counsel is present.
I am here.
Oh, okay.
Good. Okay. So with that
okay.
correction, we'll begin with candidate Eric Ulrich, candidate, and this relates to the 2017 election cycle. So the way it works, gentlemen, is I'm going to ask the counsel for the CFB to simply tee up the issue, which takes usually less than a minute, and then the floor will be yours to make whatever presentation you wish to make. There may be some questions from members of the board, perhaps one or two back and forths with counsel for the CFB, and then later we'll go into deliberations, and after deliberations we'll report back on our decision. So, Mr. Gallagher, do you want to sort of tee up the issue for us?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair Schaefer, members of the board, Executive Director Loprest, Council Member Ulrich, and Mr. Goldfeder. I'm Joseph Gallagher, Senior Associate Counsel for the CFB, and appearing with me today is Yasmin Castillo, a Senior Auditor at the CFB. Before the board this morning is the matter of the Eric Ulrich campaign in the 2017 primary and general elections for City Council, District 32 in Queens. The campaign was a participant in the program and received public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board find the campaign committed the following 9 violations of the Acton board rules: failing to report transactions, failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts reporting and documentation requirements, failing to report transactions in daily pre-election disclosure statements, failing to document transactions, accepting over-the-limit contributions, failing to demonstrate compliance with intermediary reporting and documentation requirements, failing to demonstrate that spending was in furtherance of the campaign, making impermissible post-election expenditures, and exceeding the expenditure limit. The campaign contests these violations and penalties.
Okay, Mr. Ulrich, the floor is yours.
Well, I think I'll, with your permission, I'll start. This is Jerry Goldfeder, Mr. Ulrich's counsel. So prefatory, I just want to congratulate the CFB for its monumental work during this particular cycle. As the chair stated, this is probably more candidates involved than in any other race. I myself was a candidate in 1989 to the city council in a prior life, and that was many years ago, and there were very few candidates involved. We've all come a long way. And I also want to congratulate you. I know I'm taking up time. I want to congratulate you for the ranked choice voting materials and your videos. I use them myself. I cited to the CFB, but I used them myself in quite a few lectures, and I think it worked very well. Mr. Ulrich is been in office for a number of years. I'm going to ask him to speak for himself, but I just want to say we are not contesting violations 1 through 8. We are only contesting the 9th one. And by the way, I want to thank Mr. Gallagher and his team for working with us so assiduously over many months on the issue relating to the qualified expenditure deficit that we got down from 93,526 to 0. So we were very pleased with our ability to work with him and his continuing assistance. With regard to the penalty in item number 9, we don't contest that it occurred. We are only requesting that instead of the penalty that is on the standard penalty of 2 times the amount spent on the limit, that the board penalize the campaign. I'm receiving feedback. I don't know if you folks are.
Yes, we are hearing feedback.
Just
Sometimes if you just turn off the microphone and put it back on, it works. It solves that problem, Mr. Goldfeder.
How's this? I was just making the brilliant point that we're just requesting that the campaign be penalized 1 time the amount, 13,325, rather than twice the amount. Mr. Ulrich has been in a number of campaigns. He has an unblemished record up until this particular campaign, and we don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It was a new treasurer. There were inadvertent errors that were made. Mr. Ulrich is ordinarily very, very careful himself about these issues, and we would just ask the board to penalize us in that reduced way. And now, unless you have any questions of me, Eric Ulrich will address you.
Hi, thank you, Jerry. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair Schaefer and the members of the board and Amy Lopresti. It's a little still strange for me to see everybody on Zoom and not to see everybody in person. I'm looking forward to the day when we can all see each other in person, hopefully one day. As my attorney so eloquently put it, you know, I'm a big fan and supporter of the program. I have been for many years since my first race in the special election of 2009. My grandfather, blessed memory, Ronald Kulik, was my first treasurer and was for my 3 subsequent campaigns. And he really set the gold standard for what a treasurer should be. As a matter of fact, after he had passed, a number of the members of the board had reached out to me to say that some of the practices that he had used were actually incorporated into the handbook and put into use and now required by all treasurers that participate in the matching funds programs. I've been on a number of panels supporting the matching fund program, and I'm a huge supporter of the matching fund program and public funds. But that being said, I had to get a new treasurer in 2017 when I was running for my last re-election campaign. I think that Jerry Goldfeder was very charitable in his comments about how we're not going to throw anybody under the bus, and I can certainly appreciate that. But you know, for someone like me who holds myself to such a high standard, to have to go through this, I did not know that we even went over the spending limit until I got that very thick packet in the mail from the enforcement unit and the compliance unit. And just as an aside, I want to thank Mr. Gallagher. He has been extremely professional, responsive, even in the midst of this pandemic and the craziness that we're experiencing. He and his staff have gotten responses to us right away, turning around answers all within the same business day in most instances. So I have no complaints about the program. I have no complaints about the campaign finance staff. I regrettably accept responsibility for these violations, which we are prepared to pay the penalty for. But we are asking for a reduced penalty on the overspending penalty for the simple reason that I'm now held to the same contribution limits as 2017. I'm having to go back and raise some funds from new donors, from friends of mine, so that I can pay off these penalties. I'd like to do it as soon as possible and as quickly as possible so that we can close this matter and move on. But notwithstanding this inadvertent series of violations, I want to commend the great work of the Campaign Finance Board for the fine work that they do. I continue to be a strong supporter of the program. I think it's a wonderful model for the rest of the country for promoting democracy in small cities and towns. And I want to thank all of you for your cooperation and your guidance over the years. I've been in office for 12 and a half years. I would not have been able to do it had it not been for the help and the support of the people of the Campaign Finance Board. So with that said, I want to thank you. I want to thank my attorney, thank the members of the board, and respectfully asking for your consideration.
Mr. Ulrich, I have a question which you may not be able to answer, but I'll give it a shot. Other than the general inexperience or incompetence of your treasurer, do you have any knowledge or insight as to how the excess expenditures occurred?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. Mr. Hummel is my treasurer, Ray Hummel. He's a very fine person. He has no malice. I think that selecting him as my treasurer initially, I thought was a very good idea. It turned out not to be such a good idea. I'm not sure that he was able to absorb a lot of the training. I'm not blaming the training. I think the training was fantastic, as it always is. But I'm not quite sure that he was able to absorb a lot of the training. And in the waning days of the campaign, when I instructed him to pay all the bills, of course, I would have liked to know, hey, we're almost at that threshold. We're almost at that spending limit. He literally paid all the bills and blew the spending cap and didn't even tell me about it. I literally and sincerely mean this. I didn't find out that we actually went over the spending limit until I got I guess it was the draft audit report or the enforcement notice. I don't remember which it was. So I think that without malice, Ray Hummel paid my bills, paid all the vendors, because certainly we don't want to owe anybody any money, but at the same time was not always communicative with me or careful with observing that spending threshold and that limit. And to say that I was apoplectic would be an understatement when I got that draft report in the mail. And I wish I had, the only other regret I have is that I wish I had hired Jerry Goldfeder sooner, because he was able to help us articulate in a very clear way and get further documentation and actually put into writing better explanations, some of those expenditures and some of those other things that we were able to clear up. We could have saved a lot of time. I know that the staff at the CFB has spent, Chair, a lot of time on this matter, and they have other campaigns to worry about. So I do apologize for that. But Jerry has done a very good job of helping us clear up these matters. There was one other matter, and we're not contesting this, we're going to pay it. But I just want to bring this to the board's attention, just so for future campaigns that you might want to take a look at this. We received initially an over-the-limit contribution from the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, from the PBA. And they gave me because initially my campaign committee was undeclared. So I was contemplating a run for mayor, which was crazy in and of itself. This was going back to 2016. And then we had to refund with a bank check, which we did. We went to TD. We refunded, got a cashier's check from TD. We mailed it back to the PBA, and we had a carbon copy. But the carbon copy that you get from the bank is not always clear, because it's that copy of the check that's under the printed version. And as a result, not every letter and not every number in that carbon copy of the bank was legible and was clear. And we went to the bank asking them for a letter. We went, there was no remedy there. But, that was another instance where no matter what we did to try to rectify, and that's a small violation. It's like, I think it's a $350 or some violation. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that was just one example of, even when you do your due diligence and you hire the right attorney and you go and you try to get all of the proper documentation to substantiate your responses, you're not always able to satisfy the board's requests. And that's just a minor technicality, but I think Ray tried his best, but obviously it wasn't good enough. He was not compliant. I was not totally in the loop with all of that. I kind of left all of that in his hands. And I never had to deal with anything like this before. As Jerry mentioned, never fined, never penalty, never had an issue. In 2009 in the special, 2009 in the general, 2013 in the general. As a matter of fact, when I ran for public advocate in the citywide special, a year and a half after my reelection, obviously I didn't hire Mr. Hummel as the treasurer. I hired a different treasurer, Craig Caruana, who did a fantastic job. And we just got a notice in the mail that they're not recommending any penalties or fines for that subsequent campaign. So hiring the right treasurer makes all the difference. That's the lesson that I learned from 2017.
All right. Well, thank you very much. If there are no further questions or statements, we'll excuse you. And by the way, the lesson I've learned from having been chair of the CFB is to tell people don't be treasurers, or at least unless you really know what you're doing.
I tell people the same thing.
It's a hard job and it's a big responsibility, and obviously you put yourself and your campaign at risk. All right. Well, thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
And we'll let you go now, and Godspeed.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you all.
Coming back to our meeting, our eagle-eyed executive director has reminded me that I skipped over an item on the agenda, which we're going to circle back to now before continuing with the other candidate appearances, and that is the very important matter of voting on the public funds payments. So I'm going to ask Amy to set out what these payments, these proposed payments are, and we'll then take a vote on them. So Amy, why don't you go ahead?
I will ask, because we do have a couple of candidates appearing in person on petitions. So that there won't be a gap. I would ask if the staff who's going to help set up those candidates who are appearing in person to start that process while we continue with the public funds payments, so there won't be a gap in those. Okay. Today, the CFB staff is recommending public funds payments to candidates in the general elections in November. These payments are based on campaign finance activity reported by campaigns through June 11th. Based on CFB audit reviews, staff recommends payments to 56 campaigns totaling $3,119,815. With today's payments, the board will have approved more than $112 million to 2021 candidates. Details of which candidates and the amounts they received will be available in the press release issued after the meeting. Later this afternoon, on our campaign finance summary on our website will be updated to show the total amount received by candidates all to date. So I will read the candidates. For mayor, Eric Adams, $1,328,235. For controller, Brad Lander, $42,758. For Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, $2,014. For Queensborough President, Donovan Richards, $1,771. For Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, $855. In City Council District 1, Christopher Marte, $40,111. In Council District 2, Carlina Rivera, $24,534. In Council District 5, Julie Menon, $40,111. In Council District 6, Gail Brewer, $40,111. In Council District 7, Sean Abreu, $40,111. In Council District 10, Carmen De La Rosa, $40,111. In Council District 11, Eric Dinowitz, $1,710. In Council District 13, Marjorie Velasquez, $40,111. In District 14, Purina Sanchez, $40,111. In District 15, Oswald Feliz, $570. In District 16, Althea Stevens, $4,963. In District 18, Amanda Farias, $40,111. In District 19, Tony Avella, $9,249. In District 20, and also in District 19, I skipped a person, Vicky Palladino, $31,449. In District 20, Sandra Ung, $40,111. In District 22, Tiffany Caban, $160,440. $444, I'm sorry. Edwin De Jesus, $42,552. Felicia Kalan, $35,925. In Council District 23, Linda Lee, $40,111. In District 24, James Gennaro, $19,654. In District 25, Shakir Krishnan, $40,111. In District 26, Julie Won, $30,096. In District 28, Adrian Adams, $2,080. In District 29, Michael Calinero, $39,921. Lynn Schulman, $40,111. In District 30, Robert Holden, $40,111. In District 31, Sylvina Brooks Powers, $39,873. And Joanne Ariola, in District 32, Joanne Ariola, $14,660. Felicia Singh, $48,146. Kenichi Wilson, $9,576. In District 34, Jennifer Gutierrez, $29,670. In District 35, Crystal Hudson, 40,111. In District 38, Alexa Avila, 40,111. In District 39, Shahana Hanif, 40,111. In District 40, Rita Joseph, 40,111. In District 41, Darlene Mealy, 959. In District 43, Justin Brannon, 38,448. Brian Fox, 40,111. In District 45, Farah Lewis, 40,111. In District 46, Mercedes Narcisse, 40,111. In District 47, Ari Kagan, 40,111. In District 48, Steven Saperstein, 62,024. Ina Vertnikov, 52,508. In District 49, Camilla Hanks, 14,493. Patricia Rodinelli, 40,111. In District 50, Sal Albanese, 4,579. David Carr, 23,666. George Wanica, 32,115. In District 51, Joseph Borelli, 27,360. Olivia Drabsnik, 20,505.
All right, thank you very much. I will move the approval of those public funds payments. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Very good. So the next item on our agenda will continue with the candidate appearances. And so we're back to Thomas Leon. Is Mr. Leon or his representative present?
I
see
think
somebody.
they are coming in.
Okay, Mr. Leon is actually in the room. Well, welcome, Mr. Leon. This is the first time we've had a candidate physically present in a very long time. I'll give you a few moments to get set up on the computer there, and we'll just wait for a moment. Okay, I think we're all set. You need to put the headphones on if you have them there.
There's no headphones here.
No headphones. Oh, okay. We were told we needed them, otherwise it'd be feedback, but I don't hear any feedback from your computer, so that's great. So, Mr. Leon, the way it works, in case you didn't hear my explanation before, is I'm going to ask the staff counsel of the CFB to simply describe the nature of the issues before us. This usually takes about a minute. And then the floor will be yours to make whatever presentation you'd like. There may be some questions from members of the board, some back and forth between you and the CFB staff counsel. And then when we're done with all of the candidate appearances, we'll go into deliberations and come back with a decision. So who is the, Bethany, are you the staff counsel on this matter?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so why don't you just tee up the issues for us?
Sure. Yes. Good morning. My name is Bethany Persky, General Counsel for the CFB. Before the board is the matter of the Thomas Leon campaign in the 2021 elections for City Council District 10. The campaign brought a petition pursuant to Board Rule 709. It's for reconsideration of a public funds non-payment determination dated June 17th, 2021. CFB staff is recommending that the board deny the petition and instead evaluate the campaign's eligibility to receive public funds in the normal course of the audit.
Thank you. Mr. Leon, the floor is now yours.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come to present my request. My name is Thomas Leon, like you said. I have a letter that we have a valid claims 96. And on top of this, we review all the issues that were marked by Mr. David Duhalde, and we proved that everything was incorrect. And I got all the files here that were corrected. And I believe if you ask him, he will testify that we were on the right way to get the fund. As a result, I have a lot of people that I owe about around 60,000, and I don't know how to pay. And that's why I trying to pay everyone, because everyone that work need to be paid, and I don't want to have no problem whatsoever. I believe that if you double check, you will see what I'm talking about, because we have a lot of mistakes that were not true, and we review all again with David. And if you have a question about the work that we do, Isabel could answer to all the questions, because she was helping me and she knows very well about that.
Thank you. Ms. Persky, would you like to respond?
Well, it's hard to say. I can't see what
I was spelled B-Y-E.
Getting some.
Usually spelling V-I-E.
Can people
Like a
mute
copy of it
themselves who are
twice.
not speaking? Or, other than Ms. Persky and the
Leon.
candidates that are appearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
We seem to be okay. Begin again, Ms. Persky.
Yes, I'm sorry. I can't speak to what documents Mr. Leon has. I obviously can't see them from here. I have spoken with their candidate services liaison, Mr. Duhalde. He has confirmed, as have our auditors, that the campaign only has 56 claims toward threshold out of the required 75. So I'm not sure if this documentation is something that has not been presented to the board previously. If it is, I would note that Board Rule 709 provides that documentation or information not previously submitted to the board cannot be included with a petition unless the candidate shows good cause for the previous failure to provide it.
Yeah, let me underline that point with you, Mr. Leon, so you understand that you actually have another shot at this. Under this particular procedure, the board can only consider the evidence that was presented previously. It may be that that evidence was incomplete, and it may be that you were able to add additional evidence or correct certain things that occurred before, but that can only occur in the course of the audit, which is yet to come. And so you will have the opportunity in that audit to show and go over these documents with the auditors. And if you can prove that you in fact had a sufficient number of eligible contributors, you will qualify for the payment. But in this particular proceeding, because of the procedural posture that we're in, we can only consider the evidence that was before the board at the time of the initial determination. I'm not going to cut you short. If you want to continue with the describing your evidence, that's fine, but you should understand that you will have another opportunity during the audit to get yourself paid.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you know, when is the audit?
Sure. Ms. Persky, would you describe to them the process of the audit to come?
I will. And first, I just want to speak to you because I just got a message from Mr. Duhalde.
Wait a second. Somebody's phone is okay. Please, everybody, mute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Persky.
I just got a message from Mr. Duhalde, and I think we can explain the confusion with the 96 contributions. We believe that relates to 96 valid contributions, not all of which are in the district. To count toward threshold, the contributions have to be within the district, and there are only 56 of those. So I think that may be the misconception there with the 96. In terms of the audit, so what will happen is our auditors will prepare an initial documentation request or a draft audit report that goes to the campaign. The campaign will have an opportunity to respond to that. Depending on if there are any remaining issues, there may be enforcement proceedings, or it could go straight to the final audit report. But in either event, the campaign will have an opportunity to correct any remaining invalid claims and potentially demonstrate eligibility for a payment at the conclusion of the audit.
Could you give them some idea, Ms. Persky, as to what the time frame for this process is?
It varies substantially, I would say. But it could be within the year or so. Some of the audits do take longer, partly depending on how long the campaign takes to respond to our correspondence, and partly depending on how long it takes us to review those responses.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Mr. Leon, do you or your representative have any further questions or comments you wish to make?
Yes, we have about 40 money orders that they said were sequential numbers and they don't want to count them. But our office is right across the street from the check cash place, and we had an event, and the people and the lady that works there, she was allowing anybody to make contributions to just skip the line, and she was taking them, and now they don't want to count those because the money orders are sequential.
Yeah, so Board Rule 505X provides that money orders that are sequentially numbered are not matchable. The campaign was requested to provide affirmation statements from the contributors, which it did not do. That's also in the guidance that's on the website and is linked to in the handbook and is linked to in the IMC report that goes out to the campaigns.
So again, let me sort of break that down for you. In the audit process, since there is an initial presumption that the sequentially numbered money orders are not matchable, but that presumption can be rebutted with an affirmation, that is to say, a statement from each of the individual contributors. You have not yet and did not in time present those affirmations to get the payment to date, but you will have the opportunity again during the audit process to go back to those contributors to get signed statements from them. And if you're able to do that, then those sequentially, or some or all of those sequentially numbered money orders can be counted. So you will have that opportunity.
Okay, so I could reach out to the 40 people that gave the money orders and ask them to write a letter. Does it have to be notarized? Do you need it notarized?
I'm going to let Ms. Persky answer that question, but what I would suggest you do is before you reach out to them, talk to your liaison and let him guide you through what you need to do, what kind of statement you need to get from these people, so you're sure you do it right and don't have to redo it a second time, okay? Ms. Persky, did you want to add anything?
Just that I believe a signed affirmation would be sufficient. I would want to double check with our auditors, but I don't believe that notarization is required.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. So as I said, there is a round two for you, and we hope you'll be able to navigate it successfully.
Can I just ask if the representative, the candidate's representative, can I just ask if the candidate's representative would give her name?
Isabel Carreras.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank
Stay
you very
safe.
much.
Okay, thank you all.
God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So back to our agenda. The next appearance scheduled is Sultan Muraf. Is Mr. Amy, you?
Yes.
So two things. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day this morning, and so I sincerely apologize that I skipped a candidate's payment when I was reading the list of payments. In Council District 37, I skipped Sandy Nurse, who should be is being recommended for a payment of $40,111. So I apologize for that. And we also have a second candidate who's appearing in person. So while Mr. Muraf alphabetically would be the next person, we're going to take the second person who's here in person, just so to finish the in-person appearances in our odd hybrid situation.
And who is that person?
And that is John Williams.
Okay, so first up, I'm going to move to amend our previous public funds payments to include the payment to candidate nurse just described by Amy Loprest. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Very good. And next, Mr. Williams, you're on. Have a seat at the table, Mr. Williams, and we'll give you a minute to get yourself set up. Oh, it looks like it's all set up. You're there. I can see you already. And if you'd say good morning, I can check if the mic is working.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. All right, so I'm going to ask our staff counsel to sort of briefly describe what the issues are before us, and then you're going to have an opportunity to make your pitch. Mr. Yee, I take it, I see you on the screen. You must be our staff counsel on this matter. So why don't you describe the issues before us?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Schaefer, Executive Director Loprest, members of the board, and Minister Williams. My name is Jason Yee, and I'm Associate Counsel for the CFB. Before the board is the matter of the June 17th public funds non-payment determination for the John Williams 2021 campaign for City Council District 40. The campaign has submitted a petition pursuant to Board Rule 7-09 challenging the determination. Board staff recommends that the board deny the campaign's petition and instead review the campaign's eligibility in the normal course of the audit.
All right, Mr. Williams, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and board members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Williams, as you said. I'm an urban public health specialist, a minister, and a chaplain, and the founder of New Creation Ministries and New Creation Community Health Empowerment Incorporated. For 40 years, we have been serving the central Brooklyn area, and we were asked continuously to run for this office because of our service in the community. And we got into the race late, obviously, and understanding the privilege that we have for a small person to run in New York City for office despite their income or monetary purposes and of such, we deem it a privilege because of the Campaign Finance Board's program for matching fund. We are able to do this. But as a poor man campaign, we run this campaign on virtually loans, and decided that because of the hardship that we began the campaign with, serious, I mean, we got over 5 times the amount of signatures needed to get on the ballot. But because of a prima facie, we had to appear before the board to represent a small, what they call a printer error that we did not get on the ballot. And so we could not appear before the board because it was virtual. And so because of that, we were placed off of the board. Subsequently, we had to take it to the Supreme Court, and explaining to the Supreme Court the prima facie purpose, which is a printer error, we were placed back on the ballot. So we started out rough. And the effort that it took us to really get those signatures, we put more effort into trying to reach the threshold to be able to run an effective campaign. And so working hard, you know, we actually, with the liaison that was given to us, we had a hard time communicating. It was a little difficult time with her, but because we could not get a hold of her for the time when we had to submit our, and incidentally, I have my treasurer on the line. I don't know if she's there. Is she on? Because she was, when I got in, I saw she was on the screen. Did you allow her in?
I don't see her on the screen, but she may be in.
Florencia Chang.
Okay, now she is. So, I mean, everyone is admitted, so if she speaks, she'll appear on the screen. Okay.
There she is. There she is. Yes, she's present.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to see that, because you said you know, treasurers are very important for this purpose. And so we actually had a problem in getting in on our first disclosure. And so the liaison told us to get as much in, and we will be able to do amendments to really get it in. So 6 we did get in, and there were a couple of issues in 6 that was not clear, as we noticed that we did not get all of the incidentally, let me just say here, we got the financial part of the threshold perfectly, but we were short of 2 for the number of contributors. And that was kind of hard because we got over 200 contributors. And on disclosure statement number 7, number 6, we know that we can recoup 2 contributors from that. But number 6, we were denied 95 of them.
No, number 7.
I mean, number 7, we were denied because of a technicality that was not considered. Actually, if you follow the auditor, if you follow the submission, you would notice that we submitted 111 contributions, of which because the treasurer was having some problems with getting everything done, you know, precisely, because she was just trained and we were trained, we were new in this. We fortunately got help from a consultant who knows much about compliance, and he touted his compliance and he helped us get everything in at a time. So that consultant was the one who was submitting our statements of our disclosures. And so number 7, you would notice that he started to enter the 12th of March. That's number 7. And on the 15th, which is the deadline of March, as he was entering, he encountered technical problems with error reports. And so we tried reaching our liaison and could not get her for days, actually that entire week. And so he kept trying, and you would notice in the sequence that 2 days, the 17th after that, he got some in, and that continued the problems, and I was not able to reach the liaison. And so we got a statement that 95 of those were slated as what they call 95. They call that an OTH2, match claim disclosure after statement due date. And that was hard on us because that's 111 that we fought to get contributions for and got it in to our consultant in time, and he was placing them and did not get that. So this is my plea, that after fighting so hard to do this, over $30,000 in loans, it is stated here that if these loans are not paid by election day, then we suffer a post-election penalty because those loans become contributions, which is over the limit, and we have to get these penalties. Ladies and gentlemen, my ministry suffered in COVID. My work has suffered. I cannot, and this is very, very hard on me to be able to endure those penalties or whatever it is, and to be able to pay these loans. And so I am pleading with you, ladies and gentlemen, of the board, to please reconsider this and to really go over this this statement 7 disclosure and see that we were genuinely in the effort of submitting those, and there was a technical problem. But the 2 that I'm begging for from statement disclosure number 6, and if I cannot submit these to you guys, to you at this time, right? Board members? Can I?
Well, we're not able to consider evidence that wasn't before them. But go ahead and make your argument about these two.
Right. Okay. So Shirley Tyrrell, if you notice on the record, Shirley Tyrrell was one in number 6 that was their state here that she Shirley Tyrrell was not address verification. Let me get this very clear on Shirley Tyrrell. Where is this here? Okay, here it is. Shirley Tyrrell stated that no backup documentation supplied to match claim. Well, this was supplied afterwards on the 7th of June. So that was within time. So this was submitted, and we have that record showing here that it was submitted, entered by Johnson with date 1/15, and it was date 6/7. It was updated. So this one here was in before the time expired.
And what was, Mr. Williams, what was the updated information that was submitted?
Transaction 15 statement here, monetary contribution, Shirley Tyrrell. Here it says that contribution details, date received 12/14, amount, matching amount $50. And here it says that the date was the 15th and it was updated on June 7th.
Okay, so this purported to correct or complete whatever missing information existed. I got it. I'll give Mr. Yee a chance to respond in a minute, but go ahead now with the second one.
Okay, so the second one is statement submitted in June. Sorry, I should not have brought so many papers in. I'm a little confused.
That's all right.
With this. Okay, so the next one was 29, I think it was statement, transaction 29, James Thornton. And his was stating that it was ineligible,
right?
Okay. That was in our transmission was legible. And so we resent it, and we don't know, we haven't gotten a report back from them as to whether or not it was legible or not. But we resent it, and the legible portion of that contribution card. That's what I think. That's the one that was illegible. Mr. Yee, not certain if you are able to respond.
Okay, so Mr. Yee, why don't you begin by addressing these two, and then we'll work our way back to the earlier points concerning Mr. Williams' statements about technical difficulties in getting the 111 in on time. So you want to address those in order?
Mr. Yee, would it be helpful if I got the piece of documentation for the first one from Mr. Williams so that we can at least see it?
Sure, but I mean, I will say, just the upshot here is that since this documentation was provided in statement review number 9. Excuse me, the campaign's response to statement review number 9, which means that it was actually being considered. It was considered for the non-payment determination. Since the review of the campaign's response, the threshold count has been updated to 74 out of 75. So that number includes these two contributions. These two contributions have been counted towards the threshold, in other words, which is to say, with these two contributions, the campaign is still short.
Well, Mr. Williams said that he thought these two would get them from 73 to 75. You're
Right.
saying they got them from 72 to 74. So
Yes.
what accounts for this one person discrepancy?
Right. So when a campaign is within 10 contributors of the threshold, we do a manual recount. So the 73 number is prior to that, the hand recount by audit. 74 is the very latest number, which is the kind of double triple check number, and that's what we have right now. Excuse me, Board Member Davis, you're muted.
Rich, go ahead.
I apologize. I'm just confused because the memo we received just within the last day or two has the 73 number in it.
Yes.
So I'm confused.
So
you're saying that there was a redo after that?
Yes. So the non-payment determination on June 17th was based on the campaign's disclosure statement that was submitted on June 11th, right? So the documentation that was submitted by the campaign after that, I misspoke earlier, was not considered in the June 17th non-payment determination, but has since been considered and has changed the number to 74.
Again, I'm confused because the documents were supposedly submitted well before June 17th. I mean, the documents to correct, I understood the presentation from Mr. Williams, the documents that were submitted in connection with correcting number 6 was submitted well before June 17th. But why wouldn't they be considered?
Our records do not indicate that they were submitted until the campaign's response to the statement review number 9, which would have come around. So statement review number 9 would have been issued on June 17th, right? Then the campaign responds to that afterward, and that is when we received this documentation. Now, we have no records that we had this documentation earlier, although it is true that these contributions were submitted as claims long prior to that. I mean,
he said that they resubmitted this supplemental information on June 5th, I thought he said.
Or 7th, I forget which.
Or 7th, whatever.
Yes.
And
the document says it's here. It says clear here on the statement here. Charlie Terrell. Here it says that it was updated on June 7th. This is your document.
That's the date that they put it into the system. It's not the date that they submitted to the CFB.
But what's the difference in those dates? If it goes into our system.
Right.
No, but you have to actually submit your, when you have your CSMAR and you enter things into it, and then you have to submit them to the CFB, and that's the difference, that they were not submitted to the CFB until after that.
Yeah, but I'm still confused. Mr. Yee said that these two people were counted, which would seem to get you to 75, except for the manual recount, which resulted in a diminution of one person. And you said that recount occurred recently, but the memo we have from you, Mr. Yee, which is what was confusing Mr. Davis, is dated today. It's dated July 15th, and it says 73. So I don't understand. Is it 73? Is it 74? Or is it 75?
I understand your confusion, Chair Schaefer. So first, the memo is dated for today, not because it was obviously written today, but because it was to be considered today. The numbers within that memo are consistent with the information that we had at the time of the non-payment determination. That 74 number is what we have today. 73 was what we had then.
And then being June 17th?
Yes.
But this memo was if it wasn't dated July 15th, it was just posted within the last 3 or 4 days. Or let's go to the other. Let's go to the other point, because it does seem that 95 claims were declared invalid because they were submitted a couple days late, and they say that there was technical difficulties. What is it? Do you have an answer to that? Because obviously, if
the campaign has brought this up with us before, and by before I mean within the last week, since the petition was submitted. That being said, they haven't specified with us what exactly the issue was. That they said there was an error report, but there are no details here, and we don't really know how this played into why the campaign submitted all these claims in an amendment after the deadline. The campaign also states that they attempted to communicate with their liaison at the time. We have no records of this, and the campaign has not submitted any documentation of this. I mean, frankly, it's just not clear what's going on here, and
I agree.
I would say, in that case, we have to default to the fact that none of this is information that we had at the time of the payment, and that's really what's at issue.
Did you speak to the liaison about her availability at that time?
The liaison is no longer at the agency. However, I have spoken with the campaign's current liaison, and we have been in contact. About the. I'm sorry, I just received a message from it actually. About the campaign's petition, and we simply do not have any records that the campaign reached out to this prior liaison, and the liaison failed to respond to them.
How much after the disclosure due date were these submitted?
Can I say answer to that, because he was saying that it was a week ago, but no, this response was presented weeks ago. This was the most recent one that we send in here with this statement 9. That the letter here from our consultant that was sent a week ago. I have it here, but the response was sent 4 weeks ago, actually.
I think you're talking about two different things, Mr. Williams.
I'm not clear if Mr. Williams is talking about the petition or the statement review response.
My question was still different.
Sure.
If it said that the 95 were disallowed because they were submitted after the due date of the disclosure statement, is that what I understood?
Yes.
How much correct. After? Was it 1 day, 2 days, a week?
2 months. May 24th is the date that we have, and the statement in question would have been March 15th.
But May 24th would still have been in time for some subsequent payment, no?
Yes. However, because these claims were submitted after the filing deadline that covered the period in which they were received, Board Rule 5-05 subsection U states that untimely reported or improperly reported contributions can't be matched.
Even at a later time, and even if they're valid?
Yes. Well, I mean, by definition, they would be invalid.
But that's not the question. The question is, if they're submitted almost a month before this payment date, and they're otherwise valid, are you saying that we wouldn't count them at all?
That is correct. So I will say also these contributions had other documentation issues which were since cured. But to read from the board rule, contributions that were not timely reported and itemized in disclosure statements or that were reported for the first time in an amendment to a disclosure statement, which these were, are not matchable.
All right, well, I see Ms. Chang, is it, raising your hand? Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would like to say something. So I actually have an email from back in January 15th, correspondence where I contacted Cecilia and got no response from her. So there is documentation of that. In regards to the March 15th, where the 95 were thrown out, when Mr. Waterman entered, the system was being changed over and we could not get in touch with Cecilia. What had happened was, the reason why there's a split between the entries is that he entered all of it, it accepted some, and when he went back, he was speaking to the candidate to say that it went through, realizing that not all of it went through. I don't know what was happening, but how can I best explain this? It's like, have you ever gone into you're working on your laptop, you put in information and maybe something happened and you're missing part of your documentation that you've written there. And so you're seeing part of it, that has happened to me. And then you don't see the other part of it and you're looking for it and you have to go and redo it. So this is what he had to redo. So that's what happened there. But it was entered because the candidate gave him all the information on the 12th. And he, as you see, it documents that when that's in. What happened, we don't know. We've been trying to find out or figure out why that was happening, but that was when the system was being changed over. And everything started going smoothly after Mr. DeWald Wine came into the picture. But prior to that, we couldn't get in touch with the former liaison. And so this is why we're where we're at. And in regards to the 75 and the 73, we were under the impression that it was only 73, and then it only needed 2 more.
Now, there's one other matter that we haven't discussed that I want to bring up, and that is the illegible card. Mr. Yee, do you want to address that, because I'm a little confused as to what's involved there? Has that card now been counted or not counted?
If you give me one moment. Sorry, I'm going through an actual spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, I mean, I would have to consult with audit. I don't know for certain whether those are counted. That being said, all the information that the campaign is bringing up, whether it's valid or not, we would have to, this is the first I'm hearing most of it. And so we would have to go back, talk to audit and,
I don't think it's the first you're hearing it, in fairness. I mean, these were submitted before today.
I would point out that can I make a suggestion? Since many of these arguments were not detailed in the petition that Mr. Williams filed, and while I think some of them, the timing of when things were submitted and whether they were received or not, is a question of whether they were available when the board made that June payment. So I would make the suggestion that we take the information that Mr. Williams has today, that he's provided both orally and the documents that he has with him, and and put this over to another board meeting so that we can, the staff can review it and make sure that we have the information accurately for the board.
Before considering that, and that sounds like a sensible suggestion, but I have a question. So normally, and this is for Mr. Williams as well as for the rest of my board members and our staff, normally the fallback when a lot of new stuff is coming up like this in the connection with the 709 petition is to say, look, we'll sort this all out during the audit, and if you should have gotten paid, we'll eventually figure that out and we'll pay you. But Mr. Williams raises the point, which I hadn't thought about before, that he's got outstanding loans which would be converted into contributions, which could very much easily result in penalties because of the non-payment of this particular or these particular requests for public funds payments. And so my question, I guess for you, Mr. Yee, is if it turned out that the evidence shows that the campaign was eligible for matching funds, and the matching funds can now be paid as a result of the audit. Is it true that he could still be penalized for the conversion of those loans to contributions because he didn't have the money on hand to pay them before Election Day?
Sorry, just to clarify, when you say eligible for a payment, are you referring to granting the 709 petition or eligible for a post-election payment? Because that would be two different scenarios.
No, I'm talking about eligible for a post-election payment.
I'm sorry, I'm consulting rules right now. So the loans already became contributions on Election Day per the rules.
But if he was improperly not paid, I mean, again, that may be the difference that the chair is making, or you in your question. If he should have been paid at the time, then it's hard to say that that he would have had the money to repay the loans, and it's hard to say that he should be penalized. If it's a documentation that just cures, maybe it's a different situation.
And so just to be clear, your question is, if we later find that the campaign is eligible for a post-election payment, so which means that they should have been able to pay back the loans, would they then be penalized for contributions over the limit?
Well,
that's the question.
Right. That's the question.
Yes, I mean, so we would have to look at the specific circumstances of the audit. That being said, the should have been paid at the time that's the 709 standard, not the post-election payment standard. And so,
yeah, but we're on the
frankly, the contribution violations, that is something that we would have to discuss as a matter of policy. And as you're aware, the board would have the discretion to consider all mitigating circumstances for any penalty regardless.
Right, but I appreciate that. Look, we're on the horns of a dilemma. On the one hand, you tell us correctly that in a 709 petition, we should consider only the matters that were before the staff at the time of the payment decision. On the other hand, Mr. Williams raises a number of points which are obviously troubling us, including an apparent or at least alleged failure of the system to work, an unavailability of the liaison, an illegible card that was in fact legible, and other things, which we can't really determine without looking at new evidence that wasn't before. Now, one solution is to put this off, as Amy has suggested, so we can look at this new evidence. maybe that is the solution. But the other solution, I suppose, would be that we could choose to credit Mr. Williams' statements about these problems, which don't appear to have been his fault, and simply direct our staff to reevaluate whether he should have been paid public funds at the time by sort of looking at let's say the 95 that were rejected as though they had been submitted on time, which in a sense kind of collapses at least a piece of the audit process with the 709, which is, you know, itself a kind of messy result. But on the other hand, I think we would be very troubled and unhappy to see a situation where a campaign is penalized for excessive contributions when they didn't get paid, in a sense because they should have been paid, but we couldn't figure out whether they should have been paid because we weren't permitted to look at new evidence at the time we were hearing this. And so I want to figure out a way to unwrap that dilemma so that if they should have been paid, they get paid. If they shouldn't have been paid, they shouldn't be paid. But that it sounded to me like there should not be, at the end of the day, any penalty for an excessive contribution here, because there appear to be enough problems that were not the fault of the campaign. I don't know, if you want to respond to that, you can. Otherwise, we're just going to sort this out in deliberations.
Sure. So, I mean, to reiterate my point, the documentation questions, you know, have been reviewed by audit. I don't have all the answers in front of me right now, but I have full faith that, you know, the audit unit reviewed all the documentations and the manual count is correct. Penalty determinations are made at the conclusion of the post-election audit, and we, you know, consider all the circumstances. And as you are all aware, the board ultimately has the discretion over what penalties at all are applied. And, you know, at the end of the day, getting a post-election payment doesn't necessarily mean that the campaign was eligible for a pre-election payment. You know, in this case, the campaign could very well provide other documentation in the post-election audit that, you know, retroactively make some of these invalid matching claims matchable. You know, I understand the dilemma that you find yourself in, Chair Schaefer, with regard to penalizing for contribution violations. But again, you know, that's something that will ultimately be up to the board.
Okay, I think we've gotten all of the points here, unless Mr. Williams or Ms. Chang want to add anything. But I want to end by saying we have to deliberate on this. But I think the framework for our deliberation will be to ensure some kind of process. Maybe it's through audit, or maybe it's through delaying our determination today, as Ms. Lobra suggested. We need to figure out some kind of process that enables a determination on the merits to be made, not only as to whether the campaign should be paid, but also whether it should have been paid previously, such that a penalty, and if the answer to that is yes, they should have been paid previously, then the process needs to ensure that that's not going to result in a penalty for something that wasn't the fault of the campaign. So it seems to me that's the framework within which we need to figure out what to do here. We'll deliberate about this, and we'll come back to you afterwards.
And I will make a statement that, I mean, I think that there are some things that Mr. Williams brought up today that were not clear in his initial petition, which may, merit some looking at and evaluating, about the individual contributions that he, the two specific contributions that he spoke about today that he didn't enumerate in his petition, and also some of the other issues about the difficulties with submitting his disclosure statements and the timeline for when those disclosure statements and the amendments were submitted. So I think that, I would encourage the board that, notwithstanding this issue of the loan, which I think is, again, penalties are distinct from the public funds payment. Obviously, if a mistake was made and Mr. Williams should have been entitled to the payment on June 17th, that is, an important decision to find out whether or not an error was made. And certainly if he had been entitled to payment on June 17th, then that should be taken into consideration, in the post-election audit payment penalty determination about his outstanding loans. But again, I would encourage the board to put this over. The next board meeting is on July 29th, I'm sorry. And so that the staff has time to evaluate the information that Mr. Williams has provided today fully, so that we have a full understanding of what happened in the campaign, both from the staff level and from the campaigns level.
Good.
I just
Okay.
say that if it should have been paid, I don't see any argument why there should be a penalty on the loans.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sorry, I misspoke. That's when I yes.
Okay. Thank you. I think we're done with this candidate. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Thank you very much, Ms. Chang. Thank you, Mr. Yi. Okay, our next candidate appearance. Hold on, I need to get my system back up again.
I just want to say thank you all. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you for appearing.
Yes, I can leave. Yes, please, yes.
All right, where are we? I guess Thomas Leon is up next. We're not quite ready yet because we're still collecting some documents from Mr. Williams. Okay. I think we're on a break at the moment, so let's just sit tight. We're gonna take a three or 4 minute break. Okay, so am I right that we're back to the alphabetical order, Amy? Okay, Mr. Leon is up next.
Didn't we just do him? Sure.
I'm sorry, we already did business. I'm sorry. Mr.
Maroff.
Mr. Maroff.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Ruff. How are you?
Fine, thanks you, Chairman.
I'm going to ask Mr. Gallagher to sort of summarize the issues for us, and then I'm going to give you a chance to speak. Okay, Mr. Gallagher?
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. I'm Joe Gallagher, Senior Associate Counsel for the Campaign Finance Board. Good morning to the members of the board, the Executive Director Loprest and Mr. Maroof. Before the board is the matter of the June 17 public funds non-payment determination for the Sultan Maroof 2021 campaign for City Council District 26. The campaign has submitted a petition pursuant to Board Rule 709 challenging the determination. Board staff recommends that the board deny the campaign's petition and instead review the campaign's eligibility in the normal course.
All right, Mr. Maroof.
Yes, Chairman and board member, thanks for letting me speak up. And throughout the campaign, I faced tons of issues. For example, there are like software issue, or what do you call like in the like campaign finance board C-Smart system. There are so many issues that I've been enduring over the year. For example, just to add the bank, I didn't have a chance to add it later on, much later on. So anyway, I received determination that like there are so many issues, and I heard a couple of candidate before, and it's a similar situation. There are so many things that were misstated in the determination. So for example, and also I'm not allowed to add any other documentation to my email. So I have to stick with whatever I mentioned. One of them is on the email I mentioned transaction ID 780, and like this person forgot to add the zip code only. First time when he donated me, I think $10 or $20, he forgot to add the zip code. And since I'm not allowed to alter any document, I didn't add the zip code. But second time when he donated me 780, I think, $200, he added zip code and all the other information, but it was denied. And the first time was because I submitted it later on, like I inputted the data to the computer system later on. It says, I think it says out of time, or like it was not submitted on time. So anyway, I mean, that's what I can remember. Another transaction is 554, Mr. Abu Bakr Shafi. I added this transaction to his existing transaction, so it created a conflict. During the first time donation, he was self-employed, but when he contributed $150, he was unemployed. And they say, I think like because of employment, it was denied or something like that. And then there is another one, transaction 229, Fahima Haidar. I simply forgot to add the homemaker in the occupation section. Still, it was denied. I added it up. So my point is, like, when I got the determination in June 17, I right away, like I think I emailed on June 18 saying, okay, there are some issue, can it be corrected right away? They say no. And another thing is, I submitted, I mean, I was told that like, I think like 2% that like, I say, in future, if I get the eligibility, so can I hire worker and, assumption that I might get a public fund, so it can be paid later on. I think 2 staff member told me, say, oh no, you cannot hire somebody on the assumption of, getting paid later on. And, you cannot do that. But thanks to Mr. Gallagher, he, I think like a day before the election, he informed me that, no, you can do that. You can hire people. If you get, campaign finance fund, then you can use that to pay them off. But also like, this kind of thing like created so many problems for me, while other people are enjoying enormous amount of money to spend, to work, other thing. And like there are like, if you read my email, you'll see there are like 20 donation, almost 20 donation disclosure statement 8 were denied because of simple thing. Person didn't check the cash box, or person wrote down self-employed, that's it. You know, they are denied because they didn't add the extra address. So this is kind of you know, thing that I feel troubling. And I mean, same thing about the loan. I was told that it will be counted as a contribution. One person told me that even if I get the, what do you call, matching fund from the campaign finance board, even if I get the matching fund, that I cannot pay that loan with the matching fund amount. So I'm totally confused what is going on. I'm not expert. I'm a first timer candidate, and I don't have a super expert people to help me around. This during the pandemic, it was hard to get anybody, and I hope you know, board and campaign finance board will you know, look into the matter. And I mean, I corrected them. I know I reduced the, what do you call, during the, you know, amendment return, I told them, okay, that I'm withdrawing the claim, some of the things, so my error rate will be reduced. I hope it was reduced. And some of the contribution, they were correct, but I think like I'm not allowed to present that evidence right now. But in the amendment version, I mentioned that like, hey, this person was correct. You know, he did correctly fill out the contribution card, but it was not counted. Only one, because of one contribution, I get 74. But like because of one contribution, I didn't get the, I didn't match. I didn't meet the threshold of 75 donation. Of course, there are like 33 errors, but those are minor. Like, you know, person wrote down self-employed, and then he or she, they didn't write down the whole address. That's, you know, as far as I remember, like whenever the person says self-employed, like a taxi driver, you know, the 1099 comes to their own address. So it is their own address. So they you know, ignore to write down the whole thing. So because of all this thing, I was denied. As some of them, like I cannot say about that. I wrote down on the, you know, amendment report or claim that, you know, it does match the backup document. Handwriting is a bit, you know, hurry, but all the information, including $100 indicated in writing, was correct. So I mean, I couldn't able to do so many things in the campaign because I didn't get the matching fund. So I hope, you know, I'm begging you, and also I'm begging you about that, you know, loan thing that you raised, Chairman, that like, okay, I couldn't able to pay off my loan by June 22. And I was informed that I have to, you know, clear up all the loan, otherwise I will get penalized. And I couldn't able to pay worker like that. So still I get a $7,000 loan, and I'm going to get penalized for that. And I was told that even if I get the matching fund, that matching fund cannot be used to pay off the loan. Now, let me assume if I had this, you know, correction, or if they had counted that, you know, contribution that was not that they forgot or they didn't include it in the 75 contribution, then I would get the matching fund. And like those matching fund could have been used to pay off workers. And then I didn't have to use my loan to make the payment. So there is a like issue that need to be clarified, that like even, suppose if I did not have the matching fund, then there should, the loan could be used as a contribution to my own campaign. I got it. Then but if I get the matching fund, if honorable board approve it, or I don't know, kindly, then this loan should not be penalized. There are more issues that I forgot to add. I don't have attorney. I don't have anybody, and it's so much thing, that so many confusing rules and regulation in this pandemic. While I was suffering, pandemic, I was having COVID symptom and other issue, medical issue, and my family member was facing issue. And while I was collecting petition, people, I could never find people to work in my campaign, because nobody want to work in the pandemic without payment, and there are rarely any worker that during that time. And still right now I was trying to find a lawyer to represent me today. I couldn't able to do it. They say, oh no. So I am begging you. I'm just only one person. I'm not super expert. I'm not expert on anything, but I am a kind person. During the campaign, I promoted that if I get elected, I'll be donating half of my salary. And nobody wants that. I've been helping community for decade after decade, but because I don't have the knowledge about this thing, I get bombarded with all the regulation. And that's why I'm begging you that, like, you'll see as a poor person who's not a expert on all these tiny rules and regulation, that's the campaign finance. This matching fund program should be for the poor people who cannot afford all the big money, big donation, big money. So I hope you'll consider it, and you'll see that there are some issue, and there are, I'm not a good talker. I'm not a native English speaker, so that's why I couldn't able to clearly explain what need to be said. But please read my email. There are so many issues. It could have been easily avoided. Last 1 minute, I am saying, if they had given me, like, let's say, hey, I'm giving you if campaign finance board given me like 48 hours, make the correction right away, and that's your final chance. They say, no, we are not going to do that. So it's this kind of misinformation, injustice, it is unfair. So I hope you'll take into consideration all the information, and hopefully, like, I lost the election, so I hope it doesn't happen to anybody, and I'll be making recommendation about a board later on. It shouldn't be this kind of complex process. That's all, your honorable board member and Mr. Gallagher and everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to let me speak. Hopefully you will approve my matching fund. Hopefully there are going to be so many violations from me. Hopefully you will see them as a not a what do you call not a knowledgeable person mistake. It's this kind of mistake should be under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gallagher, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just to say that most of the contributions that were at issue, the campaign received all leading up to the Disclosure Statement 8 and Disclosure Statement 9. So if they had been earlier, there would have been more of an exchange where the campaign could have corrected things. Even as part of Disclosure Statement 8, the campaign at that point had a 40% error rate in its backup documentation, and it had an opportunity then to withdraw claims or else get affirmation statements from the contributors to correct that error rate as the part of the Disclosure Statement 8 response, which the campaign didn't do at that time. But now subsequently, after Disclosure Statement 9, the campaign has withdrawn some claims and their error rate has come down, and they will be eligible for a post-election payment, but those corrections were not made before the final payment disclosure statement on June 17th.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have one last candidate appearance to go, and let me just pull up my agenda. That is Tirso Santiago Pina. And is the candidate with us?
I saw him in the meeting before. Let me check. I do not see him now. Mr. Pina, oh, there he is. Oh, he's back. Okay. Mr. Pina, are you here?
He's muted. If I see his initials, but not his picture, and the icon indicates he's muted. Let's just give him another minute to finish logging on. Mr. Pina, are you there?
Yes, over here.
I see. Okay, I hear you now. We don't see you, but that's okay. We can do this. We can do this by audio. So welcome. I'm going to ask the CFB attorney, Jason Yee, to summarize the issues before us, and then I'm going to give you a chance to speak. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, this moment. I believe this moment is very important for democracy in the United States of America, especially in New York City.
Good.
I understand what happened.
Hold on a moment, because I'm going to ask Mr. Yee just to summarize the issue before us. Mr. Yee?
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. Good morning again, members of the board, Executive Director Loprest, and Mr. Pina. My name is Jason Yee, and I'm Associate Counsel for the CFB. Before the board is a matter of the June 17th public funds non-payment determination for the Tirso Pina 2021 campaign for City Council District 10. Campaign has submitted a petition pursuant to Board Rule 709 challenging the determination. Board staff recommends that the board deny the campaign's petition. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pina, it's your turn to talk now.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's very important for me. I appreciate this and from my computer that the board, believe me, appreciate it. You know what happened? At this moment, it's so hard for every candidate, especially at my Tirso. It was 2 months in the hospital. We COVID. He couldn't do something good, something better for me. Now he's not here because he has some problem in the head. It's very sick. I tried to change my Tirso, but I look for consent from many candidates. Sometimes I did call to campaign finance board. I can speak with my liaison, Mrs. Matthews. I want to say thank you, Mr. Matthews, for everything she did it for my campaign. But it's surprised because you know what? When the campaign finance board refused my all contribution, 223 contribution. He says invalid. I don't understand why. He said, okay, you gotta organize it. Send this paper to us. I know if you can see the paper I have in my hands, but they send it to us like that. I figured out, I fix it. They send it back to campaign finance board. Later, they send a mailing, they say reject. Only agree we had some contribution. I request for by to amendment the 67 contribution I put it late. I know my commitment, but I understand the situation, the professional function, the professional thing you are supposed to do in this moment in New York City. It's too many responsibility. I know that, but that's not my fault. Maybe I make some mistake. I give you my apologize. I said I'm sorry, but my tree so it can't help to me because he was sick. I started late to do something better in my campaign. I can organize a strong thing because my treason and other people try to come into me to my campaign. They don't get a time for help to me. This is the reason I make some mistake. Some mistake. Another thing is I don't have all experience for doing something better. Get it the campaign finance board and campaign board about election the opportunity to get it the confiably opportunity to this campaign because I know I make some mistake. But what I say again, I'm so sorry. I understand your responsibility. I believe this board do a good job, a strong responsibility in this moment by to COVID-19. It's so hard working in the situation. I know Mr. Lee, he do some good, but I refuse when they say we have some contribution good. We don't have a 67 contribution good because I put it late. And then you know what happened? They say, oh, you don't qualify because you under the category we had 75 people contribution leaving my district, District 10. That I feel that's not fair. That's not fair because all contribution is from my district. Why the 67 contribution and amendment is not part for that another contribution because only we need as a contribution for getting the 75%, the 70 contribution good for my district. I don't know what happened. Any decision this board do it, I agree, but I believe, I request. I know looking for campaign for comprehension thing about my candidate, about to my team, about my treason, about my company. No. I look for the opportunity we need to get it in this moment because I know what happened, Mr. Gallagher. I know your responsibility. I know the responsibility you have many members in this board. Many people say in New York City, you board do a special job. You don't do a good job. If you live in New York City and all candidates, they have to feel good for the job you do in this moment in this election. Believe me. But I look for the real opportunity for give you to this board how can give you the how can fix it that Mr. Lee say because I did it before. He said now you gonna get it, the contribution by to campaign finance board can pay me by to something contribution go. I believe we got to return to the second pass by to the statement 7 because I know I make some mistake. I request the opportunity because when I say my treason, he can't help me because he wasn't sick 2 months in the hospital. I can try to get somebody help to my campaign. That's true. That's true. I'm honest man. I appreciate United States of America coming to live in United States of America. I have 45 years I'm married, 5 boys. My other son graduated from Columbia University. My little son graduated from Harvard University. I'm coming to work so hard by the dream. This is the reason I'm running for city council. Because I believe we have a dream in my mind. I have a dream in my hands because I want to do something better. I want to give you to New York City and New York State the opportunity they give it to me to live it over here. I want to open my mind and my age work so hard for the people in New York City because in this moment we got to work together for recovering New York City for anything happen but the violence and the COVID-19. Please appreciate any decision, any comprehensive decision to do about my case.
Thank you very much. We will certainly consider all that you have said today. Mr. Yee, is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, Chair Schaefer, unless the board has any questions for me, I don't have anything further to add. Thank you.
All right. I don't hear any questions from the board. So at this time, we will go into deliberations. We'll consider the various matters that have been before us today, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I think we're all ready to go. We're all back. The board has deliberated, and we're going to start with the penalties and/or public funds repayments from 2017 election cycle. We'll take both of these candidates together. So the first is Danique Miller, a 2017 candidate for City Council District 27. The board proposes, oh no, we're going to take these separately. We're going to do one at a time. So the board proposes to find the following violations and impose the following penalties and public funds repayment. 1, failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts reporting and documentation requirements, $319. 2, failing to demonstrate compliance with reporting requirements for receipts, $250. 3, failing to report transactions and daily pre-election disclosure statements, $250. 4, accepting a contribution from a corporation, $900. 5, accepting a contribution from an unregistered political committee, $125. 6, failing to document a transaction, $71. 7, failing to demonstrate that spending was in furtherance of the campaign, $225. 8, making impermissible post-election expenditures, $4,218, for total penalties of $6,358, plus a public funds repayment of $4,303, for a grand total of $10,661. I move the approval of those penalties and public funds repayments. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstaining.
I will note that since I'm not present, that I have not voted.
Correct. And therefore, the motion carries 2 votes in favor with 1 abstention. Next, the candidate Eric Ulrich, a City Council 2017 candidate for City Council District 32. The board proposes to find the following violations and to impose the penalties. There are no public funds repayments. So 1, failing to report transactions, $1,352. 2, failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts reporting and documentation requirements, $75. 3, failing to report transactions and daily pre-election disclosure statements, $300. 4, failing to document transactions, $300. 5, accepting over the limit contributions, $3,187. 6, failing to demonstrate compliance with intermediary reporting and documentation requirements, $100. 7, failing to demonstrate that spending was in furtherance of the campaign, $331. 8, making impermissible post-election expenditures, $1,261. 9, exceeding the expenditure limit, $13,750, for a total penalties of $20,656. I move the approval of those findings and penalties. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries.
Once again, not voting is not present, is not physically present in the meeting.
Correct. Thank you. Let me just get this back up on my screen. All right, next we have 4 Section 709 petitions. I will group 3 of them together. I move that the petitions of Thomas Leon, Sultan Maraf, and Tirso Santiago Pina be denied. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the motion carries. We remind those candidates that they will have the opportunity to make whatever further showings they wish to make with respect to their eligibility for public funds payments during the audit process. Finally, with respect to the 709 petition of John Williams, I move that we adjourn consideration of that petition until our next meeting, and that the board review and consider the additional evidence that was presented today, and to the extent that it's in written form, will be conveyed to our staff by our executive director. Is there a second to that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. I think that completes our work for today. I move that we adjourn, that we go into executive session, but since we have no business to attend to that requires a vote in executive session, that we adjourn directly from the executive session. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Our business is finished for today. Thank you very much.